welcome, everyone.
Right.
Thank you for
Yes.
hanging out, having some vittles.
Yes, we just first we want to just thank everybody for coming. This is just a dynamic showing of support for our film and for Heirs property. We just want to this is our largest turnout. And yes, really, and we just want to thank you just to a showing of support. I said inside, heirs property, academically, I knew what heirs property was by definition, but it wasn't until I started this work that I knew what an emotional journey it is for the families, what it means for the families to clear title to their land that their own. It isn't anything that we're trying to give them. This is their property. We want them to fully enjoy the full economic benefit of the land. And that is the purpose and the work that we're doing. And this show of support warms my heart to see that you're willing to take the time out of your day, out of your vacation to come and spend time with us. It means the world to me. It means the world to the team at John Deere, Al Roker Entertainment, that you would do this for the film that we produce. So thank you very much for that. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Eternal.
Questions? No, I'm just kidding. If you do have questions, you can definitely ask me. But I want to say, this is beautiful. This is my first festival experience, with a film, and I've been bouncing around. But this was, like Darlene said, the biggest turnout. It just really warms my heart to see so many black and brown faces in the room, and to be able to tell a story that has purpose, has meaning, has impact, and is really touching a very serious issue that's going on. I recall one of the screenings we had, a woman stood up. She was a lawyer, and she said that there was a developer doing this now in Texas, right now, going up and purposefully buying one share of property, and she was able to stave it off because she was actually a lawyer and knew what to do. So one of the things that sometimes when you see a documentary, you're like, oh yeah, that used to happen. That was going on. Like, oh, okay, they've fixed it. They solved the problem. But the thing is this is an ongoing problem. It's still happening. We were having a conversation. I want to ask Thomas Mitchell a question. We were having a conversation about the period of the study that he worked on. It said $326 billion. But I want people to kind of realize that was only between 1920 and 1995. So we're not even talking about 1995 to now. So just keep, yeah. So Thomas, question: with the $326 billion, did that include like interest or anything like that? Any accrued,
Yeah, so it did include it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that did include interest, but why we said it was a conservative study is we didn't look at some of the collateral impacts of that loss. So for example, farmers who have been very successful and who had their property dispossessed no longer could use their land to finance their children's education. So you think about the next generation, what those educational opportunities would have been if they had not been dispossessed. So that's what we always say. We're just talking about the value of the land and the interest, but not all the collateral impacts, which makes it obvious that we're talking about well north of substantially more than $326 billion.
Right. So these are like the little nuggets conversations that have kind of come forward. But I want to ask you a question, Darlene, because I've been out in these streets and talking to folks and hearing things about the film. Has anybody heard about the film before? Okay, all right, I won't hold that against y'all. But
now they know.
Yes.
But now they know.
But in this world of like Barbie doing being a brand that did a film, and our film was mentioned in that same sort of thing as a brand. Can you kind of talk about being a brand doing a film like this, because one thing that I get is that after people see the film, they like, did John Deere really have some money in this? Because it was some very real talk happening. So can you speak to that?
You know, it's very important that, you know, when we had this conversation, and I say all the time, you know, I know to the day when Denise, and she may be under the tent or outside the tent, I see her over there, Denise Green reached out to me on May 19th, 2021. And because she knew the work that we had been doing, the LEAP Coalition, and we started this journey, and we came to doing the documentary, right? And when anyone approaches me about the work that we do, I'm always very cognizant of our brand, right? Because it's important to me. And when I say a brand, even if it's your own personal brand, if it's your family's brand, if it's your legacy, if it's any work that you do, you should always be cognizant of how you represent you. Right, and that's always important to me. So I was always that was always prominent in our discussion, how we represent and how we represent the Black community. And so when we had those conversations, what would be the best tool? What would be the best mechanism in order for us to tell the story? What would be the best mechanism for awareness? But not just for awareness sake. What would be the best mechanism and the best tool for a call to action? I did not want a film that we were going to have that we would just put in a closet or put in a cabinet and it would just be there. What would be the best tool there so that people could have a resource, so that people could have something that they could go to help them? And so as a brand, it was important to me that we be able to stand up and be able to have a force behind this brand that could actually make a difference. So it's important that we as a company represent a solid brand that could assist folks and that people would respect and that could transcend time. When I'm not there, when the people that you see under this tent aren't there, and a brand that people can trust. So it was very important to me that the Black community would trust that John Deere is doing the right thing by them, and that we would be able to do, and we would do the things that we knew that are important to our community. So those were always the things that were in the forefront and still are at the forefront of my brain. And everyone always knows that while the documentary is important, I'm always in every meeting, I'm constantly saying to them, it's the families that are important. It is the families that are important.
Representation.
Representation. It is very important to me that we are here for the family. So our brand is important because I think that that is what people will remember. If we make a misstep, it's not Tharlan made a misstep. It's not Eternal made a misstep. It's that John Deere made a misstep, right? And so that's why it's very important to me and to us.
I don't know if you have a question for me. Oh, go ahead. Yes. Do you have a question for me? Because I got one more movie question for you. Okay.
For you, but I don't know. I should ask those questions here, though.
Here's a question that I have. Is that because when I watch the film, sometimes when you're working on the film, you kind of forget what was actually going on or what someone said, and so we put the film together. And there's a couple of lines that stand out. I'm glad everybody laughed at PJ saying, "I'll be a dead son of a bitch." Like that was.
What's your takeaway? What's your best takeaway?
My best takeaway? Oh.
What stood out the most for you?
What stood out the most for me? I don't know. America is beautiful. This country is really beautiful, and being a part of this thing, I got to go places in parts of this country I never heard of before, and just looked at how beautiful it was. And I think when I was leaving Moline one time, which is the headquarters, it's beautiful, beautiful headquarters. And I looked out the window and I said, "Man, America is beautiful." And then I said, "If it wasn't racist," because the thing that struck me about this whole conversation is Black folks' disconnection from the land. Like Black folks saying things like, oh, I don't want to be out in the South. I don't want to be in the woods. I don't want to be, enjoying nature. There's definitely a conversation of going back to that. And, people, I've been hearing this conversation about reclaiming the South, which I'm a part of that movement myself. But that just is what bothered me the most, was that I was in beautiful places that were awe-inspiring, that were just peaceful and nurturing and healing. And I knew that there were a large group of us that just did not want to engage in that for whatever reason. So that was why it was really important for me to put the conversation about our connection to the land beyond money and beyond farming, but our just being in that space and being connected to it and having a spiritual conversation, because the healing is what I feel the land has the most to offer us. The biggest resource is the healing. And then a lot of things emanate from that. So that was, I think, my biggest takeaway. Anybody got any questions? Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Sandy Moore, and my disclaimer is I do not work for John Deere. But I want to shout out to them in ways that you can't understand. Carolyn, Denise, Mark Howes that you saw in the movie, these people are real. They are senior leaders at John Deere, putting everything on the line. This film is wonderful, but I lead a fund that is designed to invest exclusively in Black and brown business owners. John Deere put money in it. Oh, wow. They're putting money in education. They're putting money in training. You know what they want us to do with our fund? They want us to make certain that Black and brown people can own John Deere dealerships. I hadn't thought about that aspect of the way we make money and transfer wealth. So I just have to stand here and shout out for y'all, because I started this fund right after the civil unrest, and everybody was talking about what they were gonna do. And John Deere stepped out, and I want the community to know that.
Hello, thank you for the film. Definitely very informative. My name is Dr. Howard. I'm a U.S. federal tax attorney, as well as a person who is a product of a farm. I grew up on a farm, working farm. I actually still own farmland. Ironically, I have about 200 acres in Georgia where we do commercial hemp. And that's from hempcrete for concrete, as well as for tires and fabric. And we have a partnership with Hilton Hotels for hyperallergenic fabric. So I understand completely what this piece looks like. My husband, on the other hand, from Beaufort, South Carolina, is enrolled in this whole entire hair property component. The one thing that I wanted to ask, because when you made the statement that this is the largest crowd that you had, it's sort of taken me back a little bit. And I did go to the website. And I want to be at least a person that can be a resource and would love to be able to bring this particular documentary to Atlanta so that it can be shown, and I will pick up the cost. The person that I work with heavily on everything that I buy for real estate is the real estate attorney that is beside me, as well as an estate attorney. And we want to also be able to see how we can lend our legal services and resources to be able to help.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, and definitely, and please, we can talk. We have just been selected into the Bronzeland Film Festival. And so yes, and that's in Atlanta, Georgia, August 23rd. And I don't see Denise and Angie. I'm not sure what time, but yes, so we'll connect. And so please be there on the Bronzelands in Atlanta there. But as they say in the church, what is the term? The vineyard is wide and the help. And so we do need, we do need, and the conduit and where the help is needed is the legal help. And so that is where the help is needed, is the legal help. And that's the key to the families getting the help when it comes to clearing title. And not every attorney is proficient when it comes to heirs property, right? And so that while we have partners, we also need those practitioners and those alliances on the periphery that can help. So if we have that conglomerate of legal representation that we can refer families to, those are the things that we need. So I will definitely get with you. But the Bronze Lens Film Festival in Atlanta is August 23rd. But we will talk, and I will definitely plan on seeing you there.
Thank you. And I remember when this statue came up, I was at GAO. I'm a product of Harvard, but I remember specifically when his statue came above for GAO to be able to listen to it. And so I constantly say that we're not self-made. At best, we are community-made.
Absolutely.
But the one thing I want to also say lastly is that we have gotten used to the terminology of generational wealth. But we have to keep in mind that we also have to pass on generational knowledge.
Knowledge is key. And that's why these types of events are so important. And that is why the E, when it comes to education, it isn't always the standard institutions. When we talk about education, it is these type of communal involvement and communal type or events. When we talk about education, that's why it's so important that we talk to one another and we pass this knowledge on to one another. You're absolutely right.
And I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I really want to acknowledge Thomas Mitchell, because not to mention, like, everything he's been in has won an award. So I'm hoping that the luck keeps rubbing off. But when what we didn't get to put in the film because of time was his unique story. And I think as a filmmaker, what I like to do, the issue is the issue, but I also think that the people who are behind the issue and their stories are just as interesting. Just like Shirley Sherrod's story was so interesting. She didn't want to live in the South. She said she didn't want to meet a man in the South because she didn't want to be married and live there. But a situation happened that kept her in her father's death. And Thomas has a very interesting story about how he came to this work. But as I talked to him and I heard his journey and how he was doing this and like basically on his own, because no one really knew about it. But today, with 23 states, we said 21 in the film, but it's now 2 additional. I want to give it up to him for this work, because this is the type of people we need doing that work that's not often celebrated. But it has impact and effect on all of our lives.
And so my name is LaShae Calloway. As Dr. Howard explained, I am the real estate and estate planning and probate attorney. So I actually am a product. My grandfather was a black farmer, did receive a portion of the settlement, and a lot of the people in the small town that I was born in never lived in South Georgia. So this resonated with me on another level. I always did real estate because real estate has been in my family for so long. So I wanted to offer my services as well. We are in Atlanta. I'm with Callaway Law, and then
I'm with DFMG.
And so I wanted to tell you, 1, I wanted to offer my help. 2, that I am one of these children, grandchildren. 3, I wanted to give you a glimmer of hope, because I do estate planning, and let you guys know that I have a lot of people, us, coming to get their estate plans done regularly, right? So it's changed, the tide has changed, and people are not only passing on generational wealth, but generational knowledge, and we are working on that right now. So the tide is changing. I have actually worked on heirs property. The largest group I did was 30 people in a probate matter, and I got every single one of them to sign. So we were good, and so I want to offer that to you guys to extend that. He was telling me to lift it higher, but I'm good now.
Gentleman back there.
Hello, I'm Dr. Kevin Williams, and I just want to thank you for this movie, but also say that it's difficult even when the property is in the hands of the family. So I'll just give you our family farm history. My mother's father was one of 26 African-American men coming up from Georgia, and bought a farm, 200 acres, to get them through the Depression. So they all farmed the land, got the food for their families, everybody got through the Depression fine, and then they were like, I'm kind of tired of farming. Anybody that said that, my grandfather bought their section, bought their percentage. Now he owned the entire farm. My uncle, who was an accountant, said, well, you know what? Why don't we incorporate the farm? So now it's Flowers Family Farm Incorporated. You're allowed, through our tax, benefits here in America, to give $150,000 a year, free without having to pay tax, gift tax. So he basically gifted $150,000 worth of shares every year to the 8 siblings. And so now my mom's shares are now going to my brother and sister and I, and all my cousins inherit their shares. And so we basically passed the farm down, and we have folks sharecropping it now, which were the white neighbors of my grandfather, and they give us a check every year.
And if I can add a little bit to that, our concern in our generation is that our children don't have that connection to the land. So we're worried about what will happen next. Beyond that, there's just the challenges of organizing and running a farm. Do they want that burden? But I will say something to anybody with land. There's a federal program where about 80 or 90 acres of our land is timber. And we are in a program where the Ohio State University will come in, develop that forest, make it more than just something we do occasional cuts on to clear out underbrush, and really develop it as forest land. And it's basically free to us. We pay, and then the federal government pays us back. I don't know the name of that program. You may very well be familiar with it, but it's something that if you know landowners with farms that have timber, it's a good way to keep it going. What, you can hear me? Sorry about that.
I think that they're telling us we have time for one more question, and the gentleman in the pink.
Okay, yes.
The gentleman up front had a question.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes. You had your hand raised.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. I didn't want to. Oh, they bring me here.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm nobody but a child of God. I came from slave people, slave holders too. I am somebody. My name is Stephen Butler. I'm from Butler Island. That slave, Pierce Butler, owned the governor of Georgia owned slaves. I'm from that. The book is called The Crime. It was the largest slave sale in America. 400 slaves got sold in Savannah, Georgia. I didn't really want to go into that. I want to go into what you were talking about. What's the number that you need? I don't have no money. What's the number that you need to really get beyond? And I know it's not just give you some money, it's steps, but do you have like stage gates? We got this amount, we got this amount to move further towards your goals in terms of developing your land and bringing other people on to have a roadmap to go through. What is that number for just your particular?
The number to move the families or?
The number to get folks title clear, the whole development, the whole 9 yards, where you get it to where you have land, you're able to do something with it, build on it.
So that's very hard, and I'm not trying to be coy when I say this. It's a number that you can't quantify. It really isn't, because no two families are the same. Many of the families' farms have not been appraised. They don't know what that number means, right? And so it's hard to say what that number is. We've not even tackled it to say that, we need to reach this number. We know that families need the help. We know that we're in a position to provide the resources for those families. So it's hard to quantify to say that we're trying to reach X goal or this number to help the families. We're in a position to provide resources for the families. We have organizations that are there, that are boots on the ground, that are helping the family, and they're doing a phenomenal job assisting the families. So it's hard to stand here and to be, you know, kind of the queen on the throne and to give you and say, oh, we need $10 million to help. I can't say that number, and I don't know that number, and I don't know that anyone could actually tell you what that number is, because it's on a case by case basis. But the help is there. People need the assistance to help them gain title to their land. And before we leave here, I want people to understand that, once again, I said it before, we're not helping people get anything that they don't already own. They already own the land. What we're doing is helping them gain title to their land so that they unlock the value of their land to make them more prosperous. We're not giving them anything, right? And so that's what I just want people to take that away.
And thank you for your support. GainingGroundTheFilm.com. Please share. And if you know somebody with some land situations going on, tell them to hit up the LEAP program. Tell them to check out Center for Heirs Property Preservation, Federation of Southern Cooperatives. But most of all, tell people to check on their land and make sure it's okay. All right? All right. Thank you
Very much. Thank you very much.